Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of 1990's Represent. We're still in our first cycle of 1999. In this episode, we're taking a look at a movie. We're taking a look at Varsity Blues. I absolutely love this movie. It's just a great football movie, like a high school football movie. I did another series about 1999 films back in 2019. I had a notebook that I kept of all the movies that I had watched from that year, and they were all from a book called like Best Movie Year Ever. It was by Brian Rafferty, and it was all about the movies that came out in 1999. Because 1999 is just a killer year for movies, like one of the best movie years ever, like for real. And that book kind of showcased a lot of those films. And I did a series. I didn't get all the way through the book, but I watched a handful of those movies and did a series kind of recapping them and talking about them. So I did an episode for Varsity Blues. I'll leave a link in the description to where you can check that out. I had a notebook that I kept for that series, which I just can't seem to find right now. But it had a lot of pretty good insights in those movies, including Varsity Blues. So hopefully that notebook turns up for the other cycles of 1999. But yeah, we watched Varsity Blues. I actually watched it on DVD this time. Actually. Found last year, sometimes when I'm at Walmart, they have those $5 DVD bins, and Varsity Blues was one of the movies that were in that bin one time. I just grabbed it up. So this is the DVD. It's got some commentary on it. I actually haven't listened to the director's commentary, but picked it up on DVD. It might still be streaming somewhere. I know a while ago when I watched it on for that series, it was on like Amazon. It might be on Paramount now. It's a Paramount film. Not sure if it's actually streaming or not, but I watched it on DVD and had a blast watching it. I have some notes here about the movie, and then we're just going to discuss the plot and all that kind of stuff. So let me see here. There's our notes. So Varsity Blues, first released January 15th, 1999. Had a $15 million budget and ended up grossing $54.3 million. It didn't get great reviews initially. Critics were kind of mixed on it. But since then, it's become kind of a cult film. It's an excellent sports movie, but it's also like a high school friend movie. It's awesome. It's a blast. I didn't see it when it first came out. I don't think I saw it until 2009, because when I was working at this restaurant, there were people that were quoting it in the kitchen where I worked, and the most notable quote was the "I don't want your life" bit that James Vanderbeek does. And I was asking them, I'm like, what is this from that you guys keep quoting? And they're like, oh, it's Varsity Blues. So then I think later, like that year, I think I ended up just watching it. I think I found it on like TV or something, or rented it on Netflix maybe, like the DVD when I was still doing the DVD option. But I rented it and had a really good time watching it. And then I hadn't watched it again until 2019. So I watched it in 2019 for that other series. And I think I watched it a couple times that year. And then most recently just watched it like last night. So had a blast watching it. Like I said, it's kind of like a cult film now. Like I said, picked it up on DVD. It's got a great cast. Unfortunately, two of the cast members have since passed away, and one of them has actually just straight up disappeared. I knew about the two that had passed away, but the third one, the actor, let me see if I can pull the name up here. Let me just pull this up on the thing I was reading here. The cast, it is Richard Duffy, Joe Pitcher, Pichier, Joe Pitcher. He plays Mox's younger brother, the one that's kind of like religious for the movie, and apparently totally just disappeared, like in like 2000. I think it was 2006. Let me just click on this and see. Yeah, disappeared in 2006. So when he was 18, just straight up disappeared. They've never have like recovered it, like his body was never found or anything like that. So, who knows what happened to him. But the two other actors that have passed away are Paul Walker and Ron Lesser. Paul Walker plays the quarterback, the lead quarterback at first. That is Lance Harbor. And then the other actor that's passed away is Ron Lesser. He plays Billy Bob, kind of like the offensive lineman or like whatever position that's supposed to be. there was at one point going to be a planned television series. I think they got. I remember reading an article about that, and the most recent article was like 2016. I think they had planned it for a while before that, but eventually the plans just got scrapped. I don't know because 2016 would have been. We click on Ron Lesser here. And Ron Lesser, passed away in 2016, and Paul Walker, of course, passed away in 2013. So maybe they were still trying to do the show, maybe get Billy Bob's or Ron Lesser's character to be in it. But he had passed away. Also, Ron Lesser, I think, had underwent a lot of like weight loss surgery, since this film. So maybe his character probably wouldn't look the same anyway. I don't think. But it would have been interesting to see what they would have done with a TV series. I've had ideas of how they could do it in my head, where maybe James Van Der Beek comes back for maybe a funeral of one of the other friends, maybe Lance Harbor, maybe Billy Bob, whoever, and then ends up getting kind of roped into whatever stuff is going on in West Canaan at the time. I don't really know, but it would have been interesting to see what they could have done with a TV series. This movie was also parodied in Not Another Teen Movie that came out a couple years later. Ron Lesser also shows up in that. He basically plays, forget the character's name, but he basically plays essentially the same character in that. And they also parody the kind of infamous whipped cream bikini scene that you see Ali Larter doing in this movie. The soundtrack of this movie is absolutely a great soundtrack. I actually have the CD here. The CD is actually not in the case because it's not in the CD player at my work, but it's in my office. But you just have an amazing soundtrack. I think there's some songs that are in the movie that aren't even on this. But yeah, here's the back of the soundtrack. So you have is that Fly? I think it's Fly, right? Yeah, Fly by Loudmouth. You have Nice Guys Finish Last by Green Day. You have My Hero by Foo Fighters. Probably the best use of that song in any movie. They actually use it twice in the beginning of they use it in the beginning of the final game of the movie, and then during the final play of that final game, or final, not the final play. The final play is when they score, but the final play on when they're on defense, they play it as Tweeter blocks the punt. You have Run by Collective Soul that shows up a couple times in the movie because I think Mox's girlfriend is listening to it as he's kind of walking around. He's now a hero because he's basically going to a football game. It shows up during the credits as well. You have Are You Ready for the Fallout by Fastball. Absolutely love that song. You have Horror Show by Third Eye Blind. You have Every Little Thing Counts by Janice Stark. That song's great. Hot for Teacher by Van Halen. The scene of that is awesome. It's a classic. You have Simon Says with Ship Jumper. You have Monster Magnet with Kick Out the Jams. Black Lab has Black Eye. Days of the New with Two Faces. Sprung Monkey with Thunderstruck. They play that song during the game where the Coyotes just get destroyed because they're basically the entire offense, Tweeter, Mox, Billy Bob, I think Wendell or whatever his name is, and I don't know if it was 4 or 5 players, but they were all drinking and they were all hungover. You have Red Cross with Teen Competition, and Caroline Spine with Varsity Blues. Again, like I said, this soundtrack, probably one of the best soundtracks ever made for a movie. If I can actually just pull the thing out so it's not all reflective. But you just have that. No, and there is that part of it as well. Folds out, you got some pictures of the film. But like I said, this soundtrack is an absolute classic, and it's got just a ton of great music. Probably because the movie was an MTV Films project, so they probably had an easier time securing rights and stuff like that to these to those songs. But the soundtrack is a classic. Don't even know. I think I ended up buying this. I want to say I bought this maybe back in 2019. I don't even know if it's still available. But I think I just bought that online. After rewatching the movie in 2019 for that series, I was like, this soundtrack is amazing. I'm gonna pick it up, and it's a classic. That's why the CD isn't even in there. It's at my in my office at work. I have that CD in my CD player currently. And now we're going to get into the kind of plot discussion of this film. The video I did in 2019 probably does a better job at this, just because I was actively like just taking active notes while watching that series. This series is more kind of just based on kind of like the vibes of the whatever we're watching or playing or listening to or whatever. But basically takes place in West Canaan, Texas, a small town where basically football essentially is a way of life. The football players are treated like gods essentially. They're allowed to kind of just like break the rules. Like there's parts where like they're doing underage drinking. There's like a part where Mox, like after his first game, the guy at the convenience store just gives him a 6-pack of beer, even though he's underage. Like so, like a lot of rules aren't really just they're not enforced on the football players because the football players are essentially gods. And I have some other quick notes here about this when I watched it last night. Just jotted some stuff down. But kind of starts out with kind of a Mox kind of like talking about laws. He's like, there's the law, like laws against killing, laws against stealing. There's laws against like this and that. And then goes kind of into that West Canaan, Texas is a football town. And then it goes to Mox getting ready to go to school. And his little brother is like on a cross, like literally he's got a cross strapped to him because he's trying to doing all this kind of like religious experimentation, or whatever you want to call it. And then all the other players drive up to his house. They basically like pick him up into the truck that's in the picture to over there. Because I want to say it says it's to the right screen, but it's over. It's on my like it's if I'm pointing left, it flips the image. But like that truck, they pick him up. They go to a pep rally, and this is kind of one scene which is kind of cool. Is Bud Kilmer, played by John Voight, essentially the villain of the film, even though they're all on the same team, but he just drives his players like into the ground. Like basically, Lance Harmer gets hurt, and like later in the film, I'll get back to this point. But the doctor's like, "Oh, I had to remove a ton of scar tissue from that knee," and it's because he's like, Kilmer's like giving him these injections. He's basically just driving these like basically like riding these players way too hard. But he has this kind of almost like a religious sermon. That's kind of how I saw it at the school. He's like, tonight we play Bangbo. Tonight, or we beat Bangbo, or Bangbo, whatever the name of that school was. And the kind of audience, or like the people in the school, are just like hanging on his every word. Very much like a kind of like a religious, like a preacher or pastor or minister giving like a sermon. So they do that. They go to there's like a practice. Basically, like the first string plays, or I think they have a game first. And the game, it's like they win that first game. Lance Harmer gets the game ball. Mox doesn't play in that game, but Kilmer sees him reading a book. That's in his playbook. He's got like a Kurt Vonnegut novel in there. And basically he's like, if your daddy didn't play his heart out for me when he played, I'll cut your ass. Or whatever he says. But he basically throws his book away. I think he probably just goes and picks it up. But you can definitely tell that Mox is definitely like playing football because it's kind of expected of him from like the town and his family. He's probably like not super into it. But they basically there's like a whole like party that goes on after the first game. There's a practice where Kilmer's like, all right, first string take water, like take a break. Second string do this, and they're doing a bunch of like really weird plays. And he's like, what the hell kind of play are you doing? This is stupid. They have a really cool Greek chorus in this movie too. I think I probably touched on this in the other series, but it's like one of the local policemen. And a couple other like characters, like I think they're just like people that just, like are in the town, are kind of commenting on the stuff going on. Like they just kind of sit on the sidelines and they discuss kind of like stuff about the movie and the fact. I love when movies have these Greek choruses in there. Like Do the Right Thing has like a really good Greek chorus, completely different movie, but there's a really good Greek chorus in that. Probably the best one in film that I've seen like in a while is the one to Do the Right Thing. If you haven't seen Do the Right Thing, check it out. But they go to the next game, and in the first game, I should mention, it's kind of like assumed that Billy Bob gets a concussion because he gets knocked down and is sick, basically. Like, and the coach is like, even the coach should probably never have played him that game, but Kilmer puts him in anyway. And during a critical play of the game, he kind of just faints on the field. Lance Harmer, played by Paul Walker, gets sacked and basically suffers what would be like a career-ending injury. He tears like a ton of ligaments and a bunch of stuff. And Billy Bob is really broken up about it because it's like he was supposed to protect Lance and didn't, but then also at the same time, Kilmer should have never played Billy Bob in that condition because it's like assumed that he got like a concussion or something like that because they had to wake him up with like the smelling salts and all that. But after that, they put Moxon in the game, or Moxon, what do you want, John Moxon, I think everybody just calls him Mox. But they put him in the game, and he ends up winning the game. And one funny thing is he needs to stop the clock, so he throws the ball at the mascot of the other team. So it's basically, I think it would probably be grounding if they were actually applying the rules, because he was probably in the pocket when he did that. But stops the clock that way, and then in the final game of the movie, it's a callback to that scene, which we'll get to in a moment. He throws the ball at the other mascot too. But they win the game. See if there's anything here. Basically, and now Mox is seen as kind of like a hero. Like even Lance Harper's girlfriend starts coming on to him because she doesn't want to be stuck in West Canaan the rest of her life. So she was essentially using Lance Harbor as probably like a ticket out of that town. And then she starts coming on to Mox for the exact same reason, essentially. That's when you do when you have the kind of the whipped cream bikini scene. But after that, they keep playing. Mox is now the starting quarterback. So basically, they put the sign up in his yard that he's the starting quarterback. Earlier in the film, actually before Harbor gets hurt, they're at a cookout and they're kind of like arguing over like who's better, Mox or Harbor. And there's like a contest where and Jesse Plemons plays like he has like a couple scenes in this movie. He's like because he's like Lance Harbor's younger brother, but they do a thing where they put a beer can on their head and they throw the football and knock it off. So Paul Walker, Lance Harbor throws the ball, knocks the can off his dad's head, and then Mox does it. And like you can definitely tell that Lance Harbor and Mox don't want any part of this. They're like this is embarrassing. But the dad is like he's like throw that damn pigskin, and he throws it and he hits him in the face and like breaks his nose. But then like the next game after that is the one where Lance gets hurt. There's a whole thing where Tweeter essentially steals a cop car, and this is when I was talking to my friend at work. I'm like, dude, how are they getting away with this? And they're just like, he's like, it's Texas, it's small town football. They can get away with a lot because it's like basically like they're gods essentially. But at one point they go to there's another quarterback named he's a running back named Wendell, and he's only got 3 touchdowns, but touchdowns in the movie. Well, he eventually gets 4, or his 4th. But he's like, well, Kilmer's a racist. He's not going to put me in the game. Like he's like, I only had 3 touchdowns because I broke for 20 yards on each of those plays and was able to get in the end zone. But as soon as we get into the 10, he does like a play with Lance on a sweep or like throws it to a white receiver. So basically now Kilmer is like not just a jerk, he's also a racist too. So Mox is like, screw that, I'll get you in the end zone. And then they go to a strip club. They get it's Mox, Billy Bob. I'm trying to remember all the characters that were in this. So it's Mox, Billy Bob, Lance Harbor, Tweeter, and I think Wendell are there. So it's like the 5 of them. But they go to a strip club. They even get all the they're in a strip club. They're potentially either just of age or underage. They're definitely too young to be drinking. But like the waitress brings them like a whole thing of shot. She's like, everything's on the house tonight because again, football players are gods in this town basically. But one of the dancers comes out and ends up being one of their teachers, and she's like dancing, and she turns around and then sees them, and she freezes. But then she ends up like finishing their dance, and they make an agreement not to tell anybody and that kind of thing. But then when they walk out of the strip club, it's like 7 in the morning, so they were there all night, and they have a game that night too. And this is the game where they ended up losing like really badly. It was like I forget what the final score was. I just remember the Coyotes only had like 3 points, and Kilmer gets on them for that. He's like the sacrifices of many players were like squandered by a few selfish players that decided to just like get drunk. And then the next scene is kind of where the "I don't want your life" line comes from. So Mox's dad is like eating dinner, and Mox comes down to get something to drink, like some juice or something. And he's like, I heard you organized an all-night drinking party. That's why you boys dragged ass out there. And he's like, save it. His dad's like, save it? Save what? This is the opportunity of your lifetime. And then the scene is like, playing football at West Canaan may have been the opportunity of your lifetime, but I don't want your life. And then Mox's brother comes in with Billy Bob's pig, which is named Bacon, and he's like, "What the hell is Bacon doing here?" And then he's like, "Oh, he said Billy Bob said you would know how to take care of him," and it's implying that Billy Bob is going to do something really bad, like potentially like maybe like suicidal or something like that. And you see his truck parked in the field, and it camera pans down, and you hear a gunshot, and you think that's maybe what the case is. But what he's doing is he's basically taking a shotgun to all his football trophies, because he's like, like I still care about, like Bud Kilmer's like I'm not NFL, but this title and all this kind of stuff. He's like, Kilmer's an asshole. Like, we don't need to be doing this. And he's like, most improved player at lineman camp. He's like, shoots the trophies. And then Mox says, you know what? He's like, I still need you for this final game. And then there's a poster, like a meet and greet of Bud Kilmer, and you see like Mox takes the shotgun to that. And then they go to the final game. Mox gets admitted to Brown University, gets a scholarship that Kilmer finds out about, and he's like, don't think I can't screw up the scholarship for you. He's like, I can mess with your transcripts and have the whole thing blown, so you do what I tell you on this field tonight. He's like, I get what I want, which is this divisional championship or whatever, and you get what you want with your scholarship to Brown. So they go through the game, and they're losing initially. And one thing I thought was really interesting is Kilmer keeps telling Mox, he's like, we're a running team, because if we run the ball, we can run the clock down and better clock management. It's like, basically, when I still play Madden, I usually do running plays because it basically keeps the clock running, because the ball is generally in bounds when you're doing those. But let me see what else I have here on these little notes. So basically what happens is they go out there, Wendell gets hurt. He gets a touchdown, actually, because he's like, they get it to the side of 10, and Kilmer calls a play that would be like a passing play to somebody else. And Wendell's like, damn. And then Mox does an audible. He's like, hey, we're doing this play instead. Does anybody have a problem with Wendell scored a touchdown? But he's like, no. So they basically do a running play instead. Wendell gets his 4th touchdown. And even like Kilmer's like, he's like, yeah, keep laughing, or keep smiling, or whatever he says. And even though I think at that point he was tolerant of that play, because they still got points for it. But Wendell gets hurt on another play, and they go into the locker room at halftime, and they're going to give him the kind of same injection they gave to Lance Harbor earlier in the movie, which is like, dude, he's way too hurt to be playing. Like, he's like, if that needle goes anywhere near him, we're gonna quit. And then he's like, okay. He's like, and Mox is like, I'm out. Then he's like, all right, Tweeter, you're taking the snaps, like, you're the quarterback. And Tweeter's like, no, I'm out. And Billy Bob's like, I'm out too. And Kilmer makes a comment, and he's like, are you ready to lose that scholarship? And he's like, if he keeps that needle out of his leg, absolutely. And basically what happens is the team stands up to Kilmer finally, and they're like, the only way we're going out there is without you. And earlier in the film, like earlier in that particular game, the coach says, this is 48 minutes for the next 48 years of your life. And then Mox's kind of take on that at the halftime is, he's like, he said it was 48 minutes for the next 48 years. He's like, let's go out there and play the next 24 minutes for the next 24 minutes and leave it all on the field. So Kilmer basically just walks into his office and starts packing stuff up, because I think he's pretty much done at this point. But then they put Lance Harbor in as the coach. Harbor also was like telling Wendell not to do the injection. It's not worth it, because like they had done that injection probably multiple times on Lance Harbor, to the point where even like when he had surgery, the doctor's like, I removed a ton of scar tissue. It seems like this isn't the first time this has happened, that kind of thing. So it's obviously heavily implied that like that Lance Harbor has been getting these injections for a while. So like he's like, so now Lance Harbor is the coach, and as soon as Kilmer is not coaching, they switch from a running team to a passing team. It's just like really interesting kind of like storytelling thing, where it's like, now that this coach is done, we are now a passing team, and they end up catching up and ultimately winning the game. But they do the weird hook and ladder play that Billy Bob has to run. Really, Billy Bob is not for this play. It's kind of a silly play. But basically, it's Mox passing to Tweeter. Actually, before we get to that, we got to get to the West Canada is losing at this point, and the other team is about to punt. They basically said we could block. Well, we could block. And even I think like a lot of the players are kind of like to the point where like even if they punt and we get the ball back, we're not going to get enough time to probably score. And the thing is, like, Billy Bob's like, put me in. I think because he's an offensive lineman or offensive, like, position of some kind. Generally, he's like, put me in. We can block the punt. So they switch out Billy Bob with whoever this other unnamed character was. Billy Bob makes a hole, knocks two players down. Tweeter gets up, and this is when they're using the second part of that. They're using "My Hero" by the Foo Fighters. It's like the perfect use of that song. Billy Bob knocks the players down. Tweeter jumps up, blocks the punt, and then Wes Caney gets the ball back. And then they got one final drive, and this is where they had to stop the clock again. So Mox throws the ball at the other mascot, stopping the clock. And then they do the hook and ladder play, which is essentially a pass to Tweeter with, I think, like a lateral to Billy Bob. And Billy Bob ends up scoring the final score of the game. And then after that, they all celebrate, of course. And there's like a kind of like a monologue where they say Kilmer never coached again after that. Lance went on to become a coach. Billy Bob cried because Billy Bob's a crier. Tweeter drank beers because Tweeter drinks beer. The statue of Kilmer still stands because it was just too heavy to move. And that Mox is going to Brown University. I don't remember if they cover any of the other characters like Lance's girlfriend played by Ali Larter or even Mox's girlfriend. I don't know if they even cover that, but that's kind of where the film wraps up. A couple other quick notes I wrote down is I cracked up when I saw it again this time. It's kind of done in a tongue-in-cheek way where you see the sign out front of Lance Harmer's house, which is like Lance Harmer, our quarterback. And it does this kind of thing where the camera angle's kind of tilted up, and you see Paul Walker walking out almost like in slow motion. And this has this kind of very epic kind of sounding music. It's like this glory shot, basically. And it's just hilarious. They also do a similar shot where he goes to like a mini mart to get some soda. The cashier moves the soda out of the way and pulls a 6-pack of beer up on the counter. Mox is going to pay for it. The guy's like, oh, your buddy's no good here. And then it plays some more epic music, sounding music, as Mox is kind of taking it all in, sipping a beer, kind of like reveling in this kind of like newfound fame, essentially. But just some interesting shots there. Again, I think the other video I did on this is probably a little bit more in depth, so I'll put a link in the description where you can check that one out. But Varsity Blues is always a blast. If you haven't seen it, I'd highly recommend it. It's just a great high school sports movie. Just a great sports movie in general, I think. It's like a coming-of-age story as well, but definitely a blast. Definitely check it out. I always have a really good time when I watch it. But that's going to do it for this episode here. Next episode, we'll be doing a video game from 1999, and then we'll be starting all over again, going into our second cycle of 1990 after that. But again, that's going to do it for now. So remember to like, comment, share, subscribe. We'll see you again next time. Thanks again for watching. Take care and have a good one. See ya.